Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, we've talked several times about juryless trials in Scotland, particularly for the R crime. And of course, the SNP are desperate at the moment also to take control of the judicial system. It seems that they don't like the fact that so many men are getting away, if that's the way they're looking at it, with committing certain crimes. And they don't like the fact that there's an independent judiciary that can somehow tell them what they can and cannot do. And so they are attempting to completely pervert any idea of justice by having it as a political tool, justice by minister, effectively. And of course, having a jury removes justice from the establishment and hands justice into the people where it belongs. And so, of course, they don't like that either, which is why they're pushing for juryless trials. Now, we've got a man here who is somewhat of an expert, Professor Alistair Bonnington. He's talking about this now, and he's using the likes of Andrew Malkinson, a man who spent 17 years in prison for a crime he did not commit, and for whom the authorities knew 10 years ago. Of course, he had not committed that crime. They had DNA evidence 10 years ago, but refused to release it because it would have upturned the apple cart. Andrew Malkinson, of course, could have appealed, could have been paroled a long time ago, but he had to admit a crime, which he didn't do, so he wasn't prepared to do it. So 17 years in prison, 10 of which illegally. Anyway, we're going to take a look at this piece and see why Alistair Bonnington says it's such a bad idea, and that the comparisons are not favourable. Here goes. So, SNP's juryless R trials compared to Russia, as legal expert warns of Andrew Malkinson's situations. And yeah, under juryless trials there'll be a lot more of them, because it won't be that anyone is guilty or innocent, it's that there is a quota need, and regardless of the thing, oh yeah, well okay, you need to go to prison because of quotas, so that'll be it. And so people like Andrew Malkinson there will increase in number. The Scottish Government is continuing to push ahead with a pilot to axe juries in some R cases, despite mounting criticism from the legal sector, with Professor Alistair Bonnington, who used to teach Nicola Sturgeon, now also speaking out. He made a shit job of teaching her though, didn't he? Anyway, the Scottish Government have been accused of launching one of the most dangerous attacks on Scots law through their attempt to introduce juryless trials. And legal expert Professor Alistair Bonnington warned that wrongful convictions like that of Andrew Malkinson may frequently occur due to this. Malkinson was jailed in 2003, and he was only released in 2020. Before it was revealed he had been a victim of miscarriage of justice after another suspect was arrested. He received $1 million in compensation from the state, which then took about a quarter of it back in bed and breakfast fees, effectively. Mr. Bonnington compared the potential changes in the criminal trials in Scotland to something which might be seen in a dictator state like Russia, where the case starts with the judge asking the accused, "Why did you commit this crime?" The plans for just one judge to be utilised in R and serious sexual crimes instead of a jury has been roundly criticised by lawyers and advocates, and indeed the judges themselves. And there is a reason we have juries. However, the Scottish Government are pushing ahead with a pilot anyway, despite all of these concerns and the threats of boycotts from the sector. They claim this would be fairer for victims of SAs and could improve the conviction rate. Improving the conviction rate is not an issue of government. If the conviction rate is so low, you have to look at why. Is it insufficient evidence? Is it prosecutors incapable of performing their job properly? An insufficient conviction rate should not be a matter of political expediency. It should be a case of being able to improve the conviction rate through conviction of argument. Mr. Bonnington was scathing in his criticism of these plans, revealing that if they go ahead, he would tell his students that a fair trial is not something we do in Scotland. And he wrote for the Scottish Legal News, "The bill proposes that R trials and other cases involving serious charges of a sexual nature will no longer be tried by a jury of 15 people, but by a judge alone, and a specifically trained judge at that, A judge's training will be in trauma-informed practice, and indeed the whole thrust of the bill is based on this concept and is therefore politicised. These are political show trials. He went on to say, this may or may not be the new age nonsense which will fade in a few years to be replaced by some new miraculous discovery of another and better truth from whatever part of academia churns out such stuff. But what we can see about it right away is that it is founded on the belief that all complainers in sexual cases are victims who have been traumatised by their experiences, and we know that that is not always the case. The notes to the bill actually indicate that this trauma will explain any inconsistencies or strange behaviour by the complainer. In other words, it certainly won't be the case that these things could arise because the complainer is lying, that he or she is beyond reproach. So why bother having a trial at all? And he also points out that the reason for conviction rates for R's being lower than most other crimes is because it's an exceptionally difficult crime to deal with in every single way. In the court contest, it often depends on the word of one person against another. And they, of course, as any decent barrister will tell you, are the worst kinds of arguments. He says, she says. It's virtually improvable. He adds that the removal of juries is an admittance from the Scottish Government that they believe that acquittals brought in by juries are mostly wrong. There's no empirical evidence to support that viewpoint. It is a guess. No more. Lord Advocate Dorothy Bain did endorse these plans and claimed that it would help with the backlog of serious High Court trials due to the delays brought about by COVID. But Mr Bonnington dismissed this and wrote, to reform the basis of our criminal procedure law on the basis of a temporary backlog seems an extraordinary idea. And he is. He says, are the annual figures for completed court cases more important than giving an accused person a fair trial, which would withstand scrutiny in the European Court of Human Rights? Is this a proportionate response to a temporary problem? No, but it is another, I'm going to take now, it's another action of removing power from the people, removing power from the judiciary, and centralising power into the executive. Because the executive wants power, and it wants power over every aspect of your life. It wants monolithic power. It wants the SNP to be judge, jury and executioner. And this law basically says that whoever makes the accusation is telling the truth at that point, and any sort of mistakes made or failure to remember, or where facts are at variance with the complainant's remembrances, are down to the trauma caused by the attack rather than the fact that the accused is in fact innocent. That is where they're going with this. Anyway, he continued, no Lord Advocate of my time in practice would ever have put forward this kind of argument. You can't help wondering if the repeated concern of many lawyers that the Crown are now too close to the Scottish Government might be justified. The Scottish Government spokesman said, the Victims, Witnesses and Justice Reform Bill will put victims and witnesses of crime at the heart of the justice system. This government has been clear we must take action to improve the experience of those who suffer sexual abuse, the majority of whom are women. Victims must be supported to have trust and confidence that the processes of justice will serve their needs, allow them to give their best evidence and support them in recovery. And no one's arguing that. But what you need to do is let them present that evidence to a jury, and let the jury decide whether what they're saying is true, and if it's true, is it believable? And if there's any doubt, then it's an acquittal. That's how every other law works. Why should this be any different? The bill also seeks, they said, to further improve the experience of victims in the justice system, particularly victims of sexual crimes, while safeguarding the operation of the system and protecting the rights of the accused. By removing a jury, you are not protecting the rights of the accused. You are handing the discretion of whether the accused is innocent or guilty to a judge who will be under political pressure to find guilty because he has a quota to fill. That's not justice. That is certainly not justice. That is box ticking to make things look good for a political purpose. And it's wrong. I'm stopping there and coming up. Seems everybody is against this, don't they? The judges, the advocates, barristers, lawyers, certainly the people, the accused, are against it. Everyone speaks out against it. And yet they seem determined to go ahead with juryless trials and at the same time taking control of the judiciary. What have the SNP got that they are so fearful of the justice system? Is it because they know they've committed so many crimes that if they control the justice system, they will never see the inside of a courtroom? And that they want to control the law for many, many reasons? They don't want jury trials. They want a judge to decide, because maybe there's so many of them that maybe have committed certain crimes that they can then put the pressure on the judge to find these people innocent. Is that what it is? Let's get rid of the jury. We know that there's going to be a lot of crimes, a lot of court cases involving our members and or sexual offences. And if we can control the judges, we can make sure our people never go to prison. That is the takeaway from this. It really is. The optics aren't good. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you see here on the channel, do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell and leave a like. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and remember, the SNP must never be allowed to get away with any of this shenanigans. I was going to say shit, but shenanigans will do. Bye.